Hello everyone, this is Chidanand from Kratz Infotech NG. Welcome to this tutorial on Docker registry server using Nexus OSS Sonatype. In this tutorial, I would like to demonstrate the usage of a tool, open source, freely available tool called Nexus Repository OSS that can be used for storing Docker images. When it comes to Docker or any other container ecosystem, what is more important is one of the servers which can hold all the images that has been built and published from the project teams. Docker Hub has got its own public and private registries up on the cloud, but then it's not a safe practice to use or it's not recommended to use the Docker Hub registry servers. There are a lot of other alternatives that people can utilize in order to set up their own registry servers. Now, mind you, in a big cluster, be it a Docker Swarm or even for that matter, Kubernetes, all the nodes which are actually running your containers would seek the image from the particular registry servers. So it's very, very important to have a registry server which is kind of centralized, if possible, can be replicated across multiple regions, very fast, can kind of give you the images in a record time as close to the geolocation from where the server that is seeking this particular image is present, and also which you can safely back up, ensure that you put some controls around this. Docker out of the box gives you a private registry server which itself runs as a Docker image. I have a few videos in my in my previous videos. I've shared some tutorials how to set up this Docker registry server which is run out of a Docker image. Pretty rudimentary stuff in my opinion. It doesn't give you any good UI, nor there is any better mechanism of controlling it. Now in this tutorial, what I want to demonstrate is the usage of another tool called Nexus Repository OSS server, which can also be very, very effectively used in order to store the images that in many cases can be built from the machines which are running Docker, or for that matter, even a continuous integration server like Jenkins can build images and then publish it or push it to this Nexus server. Let me quickly show you what is the server that I'm referring to. Sonatype Nexus OSS. So this is the Nexus repository server. Okay, totally kind of free to use. And then if you look at the supported types, it supports a multiple types of images, not just from a Docker perspective. There's also Go image, JavaScript, Python, Maven images, a lot of other repositories that it can manage. All right, now this has got a prerequisites on JDK. I already have a kind of binary that I've downloaded. For my demo, I will be bringing up this server on my Windows box where I already have the binary for this which I've downloaded. So let me quickly go to that particular folder and then see if I can launch this server. So this is my PC, Windows box. It got into a folder called Nexus, and the version that I have is 3.29.2. In the binary folder, there is a nexus.exe. So let me open a command prompt and nexus.exe /start. It's a little weird syntax. /run. Let me type that /run. So the only prerequisite for Nexus to run is JDK. So I have Java 1.8, the latest version of Java 1.8 that is already installed on my box. It'll take a minute or two for the server to come up. In the meanwhile, let me also show you where is the configuration in case I want to do some configuration changes, mainly the ports and stuff like that. Somewhere in the etc folder, there is a default properties. Now if you see here, this is the port 8081. I don't recollect what was the default port, but I think I changed it to 8081 or something like that. So right now I have configured my Nexus to come up on port 8081 of my local Windows box, from where Nexus is still coming up. Let me just check the progress of Nexus. All right, Nexus has got a built-in Jetty or a very, very simple, lightweight web server component. So when it comes up, when you hit port 8081, you will find a very nice UI with the default login, which is admin and admin123. That's the default username and password. If required, you can go ahead and kind of change that. All right, it's coming up. All right, so started the server successfully. Now let me try to log into this particular server and then set up some user so that people who are building Docker images from different machine can use the credentials and log in. I'll first create a user. I'll show you what all steps are required to effectively create a user. Also, how to put up a Docker repository so that people can push images to this particular Docker repository. As I was saying, Nexus supports multiple other repositories. So you have to set up something for Docker Hub, specify what is the name of this particular registry server, what port it runs, and any other permissions and attributes that it would need. Let me open up a browser and then hit my localhost 8081. All right, you have a pretty good UI that comes in. So let me sign in. Admin123 is the default username and password. Once you log in, it will prompt you for changing your password. I've already changed those passwords. Again, it's a UI based stuff. It's pretty easy for you to understand. All right, so this is the UI. Let me make this. It's pretty good. There's some settings here. You will find security, repositories, blobs, and a lot of things around here. What I will now do is create a user for logging into my Docker Hub or a Docker registry, which I plan to bring up. Sorry, apologize for saying Docker Hub because that's what I'm kind of used to. So instead I would use, it's better to use the term Docker registry because in this case, Sonatype Nexus is my Docker registry from where I'm going to push and pull my images. So let me create a local user. So I will create an ID. I will say YouTube user. Email not required, but I'll just set it like this. Password, what is the password? YouTube hyphen user is the username. Password, let me give a tough password. Status active. Okay, anonymous NX admin. This is the right that this is the role that I would need so that he will have administrative rights to push and pull images, or rather push images. Pull is anyway, by default available. So with this, I'm going to create a local user. All right, so I have a YouTube hyphen user that I have created. Now let me also put up a repository for storing Docker type of images. Repositories, create a new repository. So you will find a bunch of different settings and formats that Nexus OSS server kind of supports, starting from Maven to NPM to NuGet to Yum and even Docker, also Go, and even Helm charts. So what we need is probably a Docker hosted repository. The name, I will call it, let's say YouTube hyphen Docker repo. That's the name of my repository that I want to set up. HTTP create an HTTP connector, I would want someone to, rather a port to be open. So I can put up any port that I want. So let me choose 80, possibly 8000, 8000, any port of my choice. HTTPS, I don't have any signed certificates and all that stuff, so I don't want to get into HTTPS. Allow anonymous Docker pull. Anyone without even logging in should be able to pull. Now that's my setting. Allow clients, that sounds good. Blob store, this default is good. Allow redeploy, that looks okay. Cleanup policies, this looks okay. Now let me take a look at my slide just to confirm if I got everything. All right, this is the, okay, that's all that needs to be done. So this setting should be good enough. The name of the repository, if it is if checked, the repository will accept incoming connections, otherwise it's going to be offline kind of a thing. What port do you want this Docker Hub repository, not the UI of this application. Every repository will have a different endpoint. Now this is the endpoint of the Docker Hub registry that I'm putting up. It allows HTTP, it allows anyone to pull the repositories without logging in. It also has got few other stuff, allows redeploys and stuff like that. That sounds good. So create this one, that's good. There's another part, small part that I got to do, which is about realms. I have to just ensure that I think in the beginning this Docker bearer token realm won't be active. So I'll have to pick it up. It'll be there in all possibilities. From here, you got to make it, move it around there, add to selected, and then make it active. If at all you don't do this, then your Docker registry is not supported by Sonatype Nexus. Now that is all that has to be done in order to set up my Sonatype Nexus server. Now, one other small thing that I got to do is I've got my Sonatype Nexus running on my local box, which is possibly not reachable from any other box outside my machine. And I may want to kind of use the Docker from any other server in order to connect in to my local box. So I'll try to expose the port 8000, which is the port of the repository server that I created, to the outside world using one of those my trusted NAT or a NATed IP tool. Just to ensure that my repository is reachable to the outside world or is exposed to the outside world, I will use this very, very good trusted tool of mine just for the purpose of demoing. I will expose my local port to the outside world using this particular tool. I already have this downloaded. I'll have to just kick off a small script which runs something like this. So let me show you that. It's called ngrok. This is just to ensure that I expose my Nexus server to the outside world. In case you're already on a public IP address, you don't have to do this. ngrok http. And if you look at my settings, I set up my repository to listen to port 8000. 8000 was the port that I set up. So let me expose this http 8000. So what this tool does is it opens up, or rather exposes my local IP addresses onto a US based server, and this is my endpoint. So if I just copy this, I may not be able to see anything, but at least I will know that, yeah, it kind of, if I hit this particular URL, that is the public URL. I can hit this URL from anywhere. Now this would be the name of my Docker registry server. If I want to kind of tag an image and push it to this particular server, I will have to prefix the image name with this IP address, or if there's, with this DNS name. Now what I have is, I have a nice registry server that I've set up on my local box, which is running on Windows, but somehow I've exposed the Docker registry server to the outside world using the port on which I've launched. And now what I'll do is I'll try to spin up a Docker instance, or what better, I'll try to use one of those lab VMs where we get Docker engines for free. So I'm going to use one of them and kind of try to push an image into this Nexus repository of mine. Let me see how to achieve that. So let me go to, let's say, play with Docker. This is one of the places where you get an out-of-the-box, free-to-use labs. I will add a new instance. Add a new instance. All right, now this is a Docker engine or a Docker machine that is running on the cloud. So Docker pull, let me pull this Alpine image. I'm going to pull this from the Docker Hub, and I will just run this Docker run Alpine. This is just to verify if everything is fine. -it Alpine bin sh. Okay, I'm in Alpine. Hostname doesn't work. Hostname works. Okay. Whom I root inside the container. Okay, that's good. So this is just to check if my Docker is running perfectly fine or not. Docker ps, what happened? Docker ps -a. Oh, that was exited. Okay, that's good enough. All right. Now what I'll do is I will use this as my Docker machine from where I'm building my image. So let me look at my images, Docker images. I have this particular image, Alpine. Alpine is a very, very small image, which is about just 5 MB. What I'll try to do is, the way Docker ecosystem is fine-tuned is, I just said Docker pull some image. It doesn't even ask me where to pull from. It goes directly to Docker Hub and pulls it. Now, if I were to change that and modify it so that it can either pull or push from my registry server, I'll have to make a little bit of changes. First and foremost, let me check if I can log into my Docker registry. And for that matter, my Docker registry is running locally on this particular port of mine, which has been exposed to the outside world as this guy. So if I say just Docker login, he logs me in to the Docker Hub, which is by default. If I just say Docker login, he takes me to Docker hub.docker. I don't want this. Control C. Let me get out of this. I will say Docker login. And Docker login to which particular box do you want to log in? Where is your Docker registry server running? I'll have some tough time in doing this. This guy doesn't support copy and paste, so I may have to type this in. B23 B23 D54 D54 B6A B6A 336.ngrok.io. Let me just double check that. B23D54 B6A. All right, this looks right. All right, now it is actually logging in to my Docker registry, and it is asking me for my username and credentials. Let me recollect what was the username and credentials that I supplied. All right, what was the user? Oops, my bad. Okay, YouTube-user, that was the username. So let me key that in. YouTube-user. Oops. YouTube-user. Password is something that I remember. All right, now I actually logged in to my particular Docker registry. Now, if at all, if I say Docker pull without specifying anything, it will pull from Docker Hub. If I pull, and by pulling, if I specify this as the prefix, it is a server name which goes in as a prefix. So if at all there is a server name prefixed before your image name, it always goes to that particular address. So you may wonder what exactly is this IP address, but just figure out that, or just visualize that this would be the IP address, the public IP address of whatever that your server, from where you're running Docker registry, or in my case, the Nexus server. So this is the image. Let me try to push this image. If I just try to push this image as Alpine latest, it will go to Docker Hub. In order to push this Alpine latest, I'll have to retag this image. So Docker tag, what is that you want to tag? I want to tag Alpine latest. What is that you want to tag it as? I want to tag it as this guy. Hope this copy works. No. All right, let me type that in again. 223D504B6A336.ngrok.io. Now I prefix the IP address or the fully qualified domain name of my Docker registry server, in my case the Nexus server, / anything, any other name that I want to specify for my image. So Alpine latest is good. So this Alpine latest, I'm going to tag it with the address or the fully qualified domain name of my Nexus server. This weird number or weird IP address or weird fully qualified domain name is nothing but the NATed IP or fully qualified domain name of my Nexus server. So let me just double check that. B23D54B6A. That sounds good. Now if I see Docker images, okay, I'll find this particular image. Now I can just do a Docker push. I will push. I don't have to say, if I just say Docker push Alpine latest, it will go to Docker Hub. But if I try to push this guy, come on, man, give me a chance to copy this. All right, doesn't matter. Let me copy this. That sounds good. This is an autofill. Okay, Docker push this guy. Now let me clear this. Let me go to the top of the screen. Docker push Alpine latest. All right, now you find the image got pushed into my registry server. Now let me also go here and check. I should find a lot of stuff here. Yeah, if you see here, a lot of things would have come in here because it just went through a push. And let me also look at this registry server here. Repositories, YouTube, Docker repository. Blob storage. No, my bad. Browse. There you see. You have the Alpine tag. This is what recently got pushed to my registry server. As simple as that. Now this has got a better UI for managing either the users as well as the images, and if required the backups as well, because this is a very, very widely popular kind of a server, and it not just supports Docker but a lot of other things as well. So if you have one server which can cater to many other requirements, that's a pretty good thing to have. As an alternative, there are a lot of other things as well. People use S3 buckets because they can be replicated across different regions. They're pretty fast, and then you can manifest based upon the images that you push. There is other server as well, which is the JFrog Artifactory server as well. That's also pretty popular. But I found Nexus Sonatype as an excellent server which can be used as an alternative for managing your Docker images that you locally build and push and kind of pull. A small caveat to it, in case sometimes you may have trouble in pushing to insecure registries. If at all you're on Linux, both your Docker engine as well as the registry server. For now, I was running my registry server on Windows, but in case if there are such issues like that, get into etc docker, and there would be a file called daemon.json. Right there, you will have something called insecure registries. You'll have to update the URL of whatever registry server that you want to use, which doesn't have any certificates. Okay, you'll have to just specify the name. In this case, it would be, had I not been able to push it, I have to put in this particular URL. So update this daemon.json, and then you update this daemon.json in this particular format. You can put a comma and put multiple entries. Then do a Docker daemon reload and restart your Docker. Now this will ensure that your Docker engine would allow your Docker, from wherever you're pushing your images, to talk to insecure registries. If this is only in some cases where your Docker daemon is unable to talk to registries without having certificates. But in the demo that I showed, there was no need for it. Setting up a private registry using Sonatype Nexus OSS was as simple as that, and I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I will upload a PDF version of all the settings that is required for the demo that I kind of use, so that if anybody wants to follow the steps and set it up, it will be useful for you. And as usual, if you have any comments, something that didn't work for you, kindly leave a message and I will try to address it as soon as I can. Apologize if you hear some background sound during this video. There is some construction work going on in the apartment from where I'm recording this, and you may probably hear some drilling or some disturbances. Deeply regret it. Thanks for watching, and you guys have a great day.